Okay. Can I welcome everyone along today to this meeting of the Finance and Resources Committee now on Wednesday, 30th of April. And just for those who may be watching online, at the top table we have, going from left to right, we have Thomas Glenn, Chief Executive, Scott Walker as Head of Finance, Grant Lang as Vice Convener and also Council Leader, my good self, Kirsten as clerk to the committee, Lisa Simpson, Head of Legal, and also Claire Mailer, Deputy Chief Executive. So, without any further ado, I think you know all the rules by now about putting stuff in the chat box, so on and so forth. But can I ask, first of all, are there any apologies for today? And then I think there are two members of the committee who are online. Yeah.
Thanks, Convener. We have no formal apologies this afternoon, but we do have a couple of members joining us online. So when I call out your name, could you please confirm you're present? Provost McDade.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. And Bailey McLaren.
Present.
Thank you. All other members are present in the Chambers, Convener.
Thank you, Kirsten. Right, next point. Are there any declarations of interest? Anyone? Okay, there being none, we now move on to the minutes of the last meeting, and that was on the, heavens, that was on the 5th of February. Can these be agreed, or does anyone have any comments on the minutes? Provost McDade, Xander?
Yeah, sorry, it's a declaration of interest on the last item. I think there's maybe a delay in the chat there. It's our connection to the T-Cities. T-Cities information is that I'm on the UHI Perth board.
Okay, then we'll register that as a declaration of interest. Thank you, Provost. Right, we'll now move on to indeed the minutes of the meeting of 5th of February. I got the feeling from everyone that there was general agreement. Am I right? Right. Secondly, are the minutes of the Employees Joint Consultative Committee of 9th of December. There's only a few people on this committee involved there, but can those minutes be agreed? Agreed? Right. Okay, that's the minutes covered. The next matter, it might take a little bit longer, is the outstanding business statement. I'm going to ask, do members of the committee have any questions on the outstanding business statement? Okay, there being none, clearly, as you can see, the question about the breakdown on reserves, there was an email circulated, I think it's on the 15th of April, and obviously with Tayside contracts as ongoing, and with Perth Harbour Board, I know that is going to come to Economy and Infrastructure Committee on, I think it's the 28th of May, if memory serves me right, and I think that'll be fairly extensive. Okay, we're now going to move on to item 5, and that's the revenue budget, and that's the fourth update for 24-25 to the end of January on the ledgers. Can I ask Scott Walker to present the report? Scott.
Thank you, Convener, and good afternoon, councillors. Before I begin today, I wanted to apologise to members that the wrong version of the revenue monitoring report was issued last week. This was addressed last Friday when the correct version was reissued and is headed up 25/99 revised. Turning to the report before you today, this is the fourth and final revenue monitoring report for the current financial year and is based on the January 25 ledger. I'm pleased to report that based on the latest round of monitoring, we're now projecting an underspend of £2.737 million across the council. This is a further significant improvement on our last set of projections, with a positive movement of almost £1.6 million since my last update in February. As ever, I need to stress that these are projections and are subject to change as the final outturns become available. Whilst this further increase in our projected underspend is welcome, I do need to manage some expectations. Much of this projected underspend is being delivered from either non-recurring sources or from the accelerated delivery of approved savings. Therefore, going forward, we cannot rely on these underspends. Whilst £2.737 million is a large number, and it is, it reflects less than 0.5% of our revised management budget in 24-25. However, I hope you can agree that this updated position is welcome. Section 4 of the report includes an update on service revenue budgets. Across all strategic lead functions, there is now a projected underspend of £2.814 million, or 0.8% of total net service expenditure. This is a positive movement of just over £1.7 million from my last update, and I'll now take you through the main movements. In education and learning, the projected underspend has increased by £1.152 million. This positive movement is achieved across the entire service. As we move through the financial year, we've been able to refine our staff cost projections, and this has identified projected underspends in the nursery, primary, secondary, and special sectors. At this time, devolved school management budgets are projected to be £235,000 less than budget, and there is a projected £150,000 underspend on the Pupil Equity Fund. Across environment and infrastructure, there is an increase in the projected underspend of £300,000. This is a combination of additional income, procurement savings, and other underspends across the service. And in finance and business support, there is an increase in the projected underspend of £130,000 due to the further accelerated delivery of approved savings. Across all other areas of service delivery, there is a net positive movement of £121,000. Section 4 also includes an update on our corporate budgets and funding. At paragraph 4.39, I provide an update on the latest projections for the Health and Social Care Partnership, which were provided to the Integration Joint Board last month. Appendix 3 to the report provides the high-level summary of the current year position. From paragraph 4.46, there is an update on our council tax and non-domestic rates collection performance. Our in-year council tax collection for 24-25 was 97.34%, which is slightly down on last year, but higher than the 5-year average. Despite the small reduction in the collection percentage, this meant that we collected just over £130 million of council tax income last year, which was an increase of £5.5 million in actual cash. For non-domestic rates, our in-year collection for last year was 97.1%, which again is an improvement on last year. This meant that we collected almost £64.2 million in non-domestic rates income, which was an increase of almost £3.9 million on last year. Between both of these income sources, our colleagues in local taxes collected almost £195 million, which was an increase of around £9.4 million on last financial year, and I'd like to record my thanks for this. The actual council tax collection powers has allowed me to refine our projections, and additional income of £500,000 is now reflected in Appendix 1. From paragraph 4.52, I provide an update on our Alleyhoes. Working with council officers, colleagues from Cultural Perth and Cnoss were able to further refine the projections. This meant that the additional financial support provided by the council was reduced to £100,000. Within the report, I'm proposing that the remaining balance of £70,000 from the original approval is reapplied to the culture earmarked reserve. Finally, in section 4, I provide an update on Tayside contracts. The Joint Committee have been advised of a projected distributable surplus of £594,000 in 24-25. Under the terms of the Mintoff Agreement, our share of this is anticipated to be £244,000, and this is reflected in Appendix 1. Furthermore, with the change in invoicing arrangements, the Council also received a rebate of £326,000, which is also reflected in Appendix 1. Section 5 includes information on our additional revenue support grant and other grants for the current financial year. It also includes several proposals relating to our earmarked reserves, including adjustments to revenue grants, budget flexibility, affordable housing, transformation and anti-poverty measures. There is also a proposal to earmark £75,000 towards the Perth 125 Live project that will celebrate 125 years of Perth Theatre and 25 years of Perth Concert Hall. And finally, in Section 5, confirmation that we will receive £97,000 in relation to last year's Christmas light switch on weekend. In accordance with the previous committee decision, this will be applied to future events. On the basis that the proposals within the report are agreed, we are projecting unearmarked reserves of £19.486 million, or 4.2%. This projected level of unearmarked reserves exceeds the approved range of between 2 and 4%. So at paragraph 5.28, I'm seeking your approval to create a new earmarked reserve that will support our work with communities and apply unearmarked reserves in excess of 4% to that reserve. The final contribution will not be known until completion of the unaudited annual accounts. As is customary in the final monitoring report of the year, I take the opportunity to make adjustments to the following year's revenue budget, so for 25-26. Section 6 sets out additional funding, including confirmation of support towards employers' national insurance, as well as a number of environments. There are also proposals regarding reserves which effectively carry forward resources from 24-25 to 25-26. In addition, there is a proposal to apply £125,000 from the council tax income for affordable housing earmarked reserve. Section 6 provides an update on financial risks. And finally, Section 8 seeks formal approval from the committee to close off 2 best value audit actions relating to longer term financial planning and the community planning partnership. Convener, as I said at the start of my remarks, I'm pleased to now be reporting a projected underspend of £2.737 million to the committee. Towards the start of the financial year, I had assured the committee that officers across the council would be putting in place measures to address the projected overspends at the time, and that the impact would be reflected in future updates. We continue to see the impact of these measures. Given the pressures on staff and the challenges facing council services, this is both welcome and impressive. I'd like to place on record my thanks to staff across all council services for their efforts in improving the council's financial position and in the measures that they continue to take. Colleagues and I are available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Scott, thank you for what is a very comprehensive report. I'll make some further comments a little bit further on, but it's now time for questions. And the first question, I think there may be perhaps some issues with computer. It's for Councillor Drysdale, who wants to ask a question, and then is Councillor Cuthbert. Thank you. Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you, Convener. Yes, my computer has chosen this moment to restart, so apologies. I wanted to turn to point 4.22 in the paper under Environment and Infrastructure and the section regarding waste disposal. The progress being made by the council overall with a net underspend at 2.7 million, a significant proportion of that appears to be due to the changes that have been made in the waste disposal service and in relation to the sale of recyclates and the savings on the twin stream collection service. Can you clarify what the projected full year savings / underspend in this area are? Thanks.
Thanks, Eric. I think Fraser Crofts. Fraser.
Thank you, Convener. I don't have those figures to hand right now, but I'm happy to try and dig those out. Unless colleagues from finance can help me on this one, I'll get back to committee. I can try and do that within the meeting if that's okay.
Scott, do you want to? Caroline Trans.
Thank you, Fraser. I think in Appendix 2, refer you to the 700,000, so 200,000 savings on the waste disposal contract and £500,000 on the sale of recyclates. That is the projection at this time. So that would have been based on data up to the end of January. So we don't have the final figures. We will know when we close the accounts if there is any additional income, but at this point in time, that actually is the full projection for the year. So it's 700,000 of savings and additional income there.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for that clarification. It's the figure I thought it was, and I'd just like to place on record my thanks to the people of Perth and Kinross for their cooperation in the recycling effort that has led to much of this saving being made.
Agreed. It is significant. Councillor Cuthbert, Dave.
Thank you, Convener. Thank you, Scott, for your presentation. I think in it you mentioned that there was £130 million of council tax collected. I'm just wondering, does that mean that a 1% increase in council tax will now produce 1.3 million? Because we've historically worked on 1 million. So.
Scott.
Yep, actually, so going forward, 1% is 1.4 million because of the obviously the rise that went up back in February. So going forward, 1% is £1.4 million.
Okay, thanks. And yes, that is quite a useful rule of thumb. Councillor Barrett, Peter.
Thanks, Convener Stewart. A question is also on council tax. Section 446 to 450 of the report refer to the consistent and very high collection rates of council tax in excess of 97% in Perth and Kinross, and that seems to be rather at odds with a recent report in the Perthshire Advertiser, which presented the scale of council tax arrears and collection methods followed in Perth, including the number of warrants issued in a less favourable light than compared to Stirling Council, which also has a good council tax collection rates, although not quite as good as ours, strangely enough. Can officers comment on the validity of the comparison made and how Perth and Kinross Council approaches council tax debt to minimise stress and financial hardship for local residents and to ensure that people have the opportunity to pay by instalments and affordable repayment plans before being slapped, as the PA puts it, with summary warrants?
Okay, Councillor Barrett. I think Scott and also Lynn Brady. I'm not seeing.
Yeah, so thank you. Councillor Barrett, I am aware of the article and it did raise our interest when we saw it, so we did a little bit of research into that. I do need to provide some context. So Perth and Kinross Council, the headline figures were £36.8 million. That's for 32 years worth of council tax debt back through to 1993-94. We were compared with Stirling Council, we were quoting 5 years worth of debt. So if we're comparing like for like, our 5-year debt is £17.2 million compared to Stirling's 9.5 million. But again, we have got a significant number of additional properties over Stirling. At the point of that we did the calculations, we've got 74,300 properties. Stirling got 40,871. So we've got 55. They've got 55% of our properties. So if you apply the 55% to the £17.2 million, our debt's at £9.4 million, which is slightly less than the Stirling position. So again, hopefully that gives you the comfort that that our collection figures are right up there. And then I'll pause that. Any supplement on that before I pass over to Lynn? Okay. So Lynn, do you want to come in on the summary warrant position?
Yeah, please. Thank you for that question, Councillor Barrett, and thanks for your comments, Scott, all of which I agree with. I would just probably like to start with giving everybody assurance that we do have every endeavour to maximise collection of council tax and indeed non-domestic rates for this council area. But what we do is we also balance that with ensuring that we provide the correct amount of support, advice, information, signposting for our customers, ensuring that they know how to contact us and how we can help them reduce their bill. We also make sure that there's a massive focus and effort made into making sure at an early stage the right bill is issued to the right person for the right amount and doing all that we can to ensure that they are getting all their entitlements and assistance. We make many financial arrangements. These are ongoing all the time, and we don't have any hard and fast rules about how many arrangements you can make before you're stricken off, etc. It's an individual basis that we deal with people on. We also, as you know, have a very strong relationship with our welfare rights teams, and our welfare fund and benefit teams work very closely with us. Indeed, we're all in the same service. What I would say is give confirmation that the article could have potentially been misleading, as Scott's advised on, but with regards to the number of summary warrants issued, again, a little bit of assurance. We issue summary warrants in accordance with legislation. And there are a number of different ways of issuing summary warrants and, for example, what's contained in a summary warrant. So one council, for example, might issue 10 summary warrants because they're dividing over a number of financial years, and another council, like us, for example, may roll them all up into one summary warrant. So that comparison with summary warrants probably isn't a helpful one. What you can compare, as Scott said, is look at the outcome for the council in terms of collection rates, and that could confirm to you that correct things have been done, and hopefully that gives you some assurance and answers your question.
Thanks very much, Convener. I think particularly with regard to the number of summary warrants issued and our practice there. And I think maybe after the meeting I'll get Scott to explain in further detail about the 55%, which was a wee bit tricky. Thank you.
Okay, I hope nonetheless that overall, thanks Lynn and Scott there, because I think it does provide clarification compared to, in contrast to what was in the press just a few weeks ago. Next question is from Councillor Colin Stewart. Colin.
Thank you, Convener. In your in the introduction, Mr. Walker, you were talking about, and certainly in the paper as well, it talks about accelerated savings across the council, which is very welcome. But I want to just ask about in section 4, 26 and 29, the overspend of £389,000 on facilities management, and this being due to slippage in the implementation of the revised cleaning regime. I just wondered what the reason for that's the slippage in that implementing that revised regime was.
Okay, Stephen Crawford.
Okay, Councillor, if I can answer that, in the 24-25 budget process, nearly £1 million of savings were approved across Tayside contracts. Those were within cleaning and in cleaning and catering, cleaning across the school portfolio and office portfolios. There's been a process that we've worked through the catering. We brought in the catering savings in I think September 24, and we worked through all the school cleaning to bring those in into operation by Christmas. It's taken a longer time to bring the savings in the office portfolio, but those are now going through that process. And whilst they're delayed, those will be those will be enacted by the summer of this year.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Next question comes from Bailey Ahern. Chris.
Thank you very much, Convener. My question's on paragraph 6.1 and the grant from the Scottish Government of 3.915 million to cover the national insurance increase. And what percentage of the increase does that funding cover? And how does that correlate with the £2.8 million that's in the table on Appendix 9 for national insurance?
Scott.
Okay, thank you. So just to recap, so the £3.915 million is our share of £144 million nationally. So that was 60% of, again, £240 million headline figure. The total cost of national insurance, the employer's national insurance to the council and to our ALIOs and Tayside contracts is around about £6.259 million. So the 3.915 actually represents 62.5% in terms of the funding towards national insurance. So that's what we reflect in terms of our budgets. That's what we will expect in terms of increased invoicing from, for example, Tayside contracts and from some of our ALIOs. So that's around the sum in terms of the national insurance position.
Sorry, the national insurance is 6.2 million. How much of was the increase, and did the Scottish Government grant cover that?
No, so sorry, apologies. The increase in national insurance to the council was £6.259 million. We've received grant funding of £3.915 million. So councils, when we set the budget back in February, we've built that into our budget so that we're able to obviously pay those bills, etc.
Okay, next question is from, it was going to be from the Provost, but he's withdrawn his question. What I would point out, and I should have said at the start, was he also indicated that he was withdrawing his declaration of interest because of meetings with Tay-City's deal. Can I turn now to Councillor John Duff? John.
Thank you, Convener. My question is in relation to, well, paragraph 4.37 on page 21. And it's in terms of business support, but it's more general than that. Throughout the report, in this section and throughout the report, it mentions a lot about accelerated delivery of approved savings. And I just wondered if we could get an update on where we are in terms of delivering against approved savings. I know it might be difficult to give a figure, but I just wondered how, in general terms, whether we were ahead of our planned approved savings measures or if we were behind. Thank you.
Scott.
Okay, thank you. So just before I answer the question, I'd just like to say this is one of the benefits of multi-year budgeting, in that the officers have got a direction of travel so we can get ahead of the curve and start delivering approved savings. In terms of going forward, I'm not aware of any issues for 25, 26, 26, 27 or 27, 28. In terms of 25, 26, they would come through, any issues would come through future revenue monitoring reports, so it'd obviously come back to this committee. And in terms of future years for 26, 27 and 27, 28, they would be brought back through the budget process. So the first opportunity we'll get to bring an update to you will be in September when we bring the first revenue monitoring report. But at this point, I'm not aware of any particular issues.
Okay, next question is from Caroline Shires. Caroline.
Thank you, Convener. My question's paragraph 4.10 on page 17. I think I might beat Councillor Drysdale to this one. I note that there was an overspend in the home to school transport item, but there had been a review ongoing of home to school transport, and just questioning if we succeeded in reducing the overall budget following the implementation of that review.
Thanks, Caroline. Could I think ask David McCloskey?
So, Councillor Shires, that review is ongoing at the moment. But I wonder if Elaine Rich should be better placed to answer this.
Scott. Okay.
Yep, so thank you. I'll start that question. So obviously that's a 3-year review that sort of started a year ago. There was funding applied to take that project forward. There are a number of measures underway, obviously reviewing the policy. We're looking at benchmarking across other local authorities. We're doing mapping of existing contracts and arrangements. We're also promoting parental conveyance, so making parents aware that they could take on that role. As I said, we're continuing to review all contracts. We're linking closely with ASN provision because that's an area of particular demand that we need to get on top of. And we have been able to reduce the underspend slightly in year. It came down by £53,000 in the current year, but it's very much work in progress as we embark on that particular project. I don't know, Elaine, if you want to add anything to that.
Scott, I think you've covered all there in terms of that update. I don't have anything else to add. Thank you.
Okay. We've also got a question from Councillor Drysdale, and he's indicated that it's on home to school transport. Eric.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Councillor Shires. You did sort of beat me to the buzzer, but I do I've been able to find another question, which is very much related to it actually, which is really what I was going to ask in the first place, which was noting from Appendix 2, the projected overspend on home to school transport is due to increased costs, as Mr. Walker has said, following more additional support needs, placements and contract changes. Can you just clarify for me, how much does this council spend on home to school transport in all its guises, both mainstream and additional support needs and other needs in a year? And is that an increasing figure or a stable figure?
Scott.
So my understanding, and hopefully colleagues will keep me right, it's in the order of £10 million. It is increasing. Oh, Claire Palmer, do you want to come in and confirm that then?
Hi there. Yes, so the moment the projection for 24-25 is just under £10.9 million in total for all home to school transport.
Right. I think this may be the last question. The second question from Councillor Duff. John.
Thank you, Convener. My question is in relation to paragraph 6.10 on page 31, which is to do with the opportunity to purchase a piece of land in front of the former Crieff Primary School for £125,000 to allow for the redevelopment of the site for affordable housing. Can you just clarify whether the purchase of this piece of ground is required in order to allow us to develop this for affordable housing, or is it just desirable? And what difference will it make in terms of the number of affordable houses that we can build on this site? Thank you.
Stephen Crawford. I don't know if Elaine wants to come in, but Stephen.
Okay, I'm happy to answer from a technical perspective. The site has been since we built the new Crieff Primary School. This site has been vacant for 10 years. The site has got two ownerships. One is there's a title burden there's a title burden. This gives us the opportunity to own the entire site. The site has a total capacity for 20 to 30 units and is considered by us to be undevelopable if we don't sort out this title issue. Hence, it's sat for 10 years. So the proposal here is to purchase this, give us entire control of the site and the existing building. And again, the question of number of units is a question of using the existing building or not using the existing building as part of the redevelopment. So hence we've got a number of feasibilities being undertaken at the moment. But Clear Develop, we can then redevelop it for either affordable housing or for private housing should we not want to do affordable housing.
Thank you very much, Stephen. John, do you want to? Okay. And it is certainly of immense importance for Crieff. Right, do we have any further questions? Okay, I'm going to, Councillor Stewart, Colin.
Apologies, I've sent I've sent my cue in the chat now. It was just a question about, you mentioned closing off the action on the best value audit report, Mr. Walker, in relation to the community planning partnership. And I just wondered if we could get a bit more detail about what's been completed and what the resultant improvement has been that allows us to close off the action.
Thomas.
Thank you, Convener. Yes, thank you, Councillor Stewart. Over the last year, Greg Boland, who has community planning under his remit, has looked at the operation of the partnership and looked at a review of the LOIP. Operations have now been developed across 3 subgroups that report into the community planning, one focused on health and wellbeing, one focused on employability, and the other one tackling poverty, the anti-poverty task force. So we've updated the auditors to advise them of that, and we will provide an update to the community planning partnership just to confirm that that action has been closed out with them, so they've been formally notified of that as well.
Okay, I'll be lenient today and I'll have a third question from Councillor Duff. John.
Thank you for your indulgence, Convener. My question is in relation to paragraph 417 on page 18. Under the tourism, culture and place section, it advises of an increase in projected overspend of £100,000 due to a shortfall in income. I just wondered if someone could update us on where that shortfall of income has occurred, please. Thank you.
Okay, I think the obvious person here is Serge. Serge?
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for your question, Councillor Duff. I can update you on the situation of that prediction of spend on £100,000. You may remember that in the budget we've got an income target of 100k, and that target was obviously being developed and potentially achieved for the event, the Christmas event, but unfortunately due to the bad weather, the event was obviously cancelled, so we were not effectively able to claim or realize that income, and that's what effectively is described in the report, that the fact that we have not been able to realize that income.
Thank you, Sarge. Okay, I will be on you go. Councillor Stewart.
Just as a follow-up to that, what would the source of the income associated with Christmas light switch on be? Because there's an expense, but it's a free event, so I don't understand where the income would have been generated from anyway.
Ken, Sarge Moran?
Yeah, thank you,
Scott.
Are you okay, Scott? If I can go ahead, or? Yeah, so sorry. Thank you for your question, Councillor Stewart. Yes, it was a mixture of external funding, to support the event. Unfortunately, we were not able, obviously, to claim that because the event was cancelled.
Scott.
But just to be clear, so the two sources that we were looking for was the Common Good, normally make a contribution. That was not forthcoming because the event was cancelled. And also the UK Shares Prosperity Fund, again, because the event was cancelled, we're not able to claim the fund.
Okay, this time I don't think there's any further questions, so I'm going to move the report. I think, as most of you are aware, this is the fourth and the final revenue monitoring update for the 24-25 financial year, and it's based on the ledgers as at the end of January, although it's up to the end of March on council tax and non-domestic rates. I think Scott has already given us a very comprehensive and very thorough commentary on what's within the report. Certainly, if we compare even with just 2-3 months ago and the position in February when we had the last update, I very much welcome the news our financial position has improved further, and I think the facts speak to that. And the underspend of 2.74 million, it is a projection, but it's for the current financial year. But really, I think it's clear that what the direction of travel is, and that is positive. I think that's good news for people in Perth and Kinross. I think we've got our systems in place. I think we had a bit there on council tax and on non-domestic rates, and you heard from Scott and from Lynn Brady. We don't know ultimately, 97.34% council tax collection rate is very good indeed. We won't know kind of where we stand in the league table of the 32 Scottish local authorities, and probably won't know on that for a few months yet until all the data's in. But really, it's immensely, I think we will be in the top quartile, perhaps even the top decile, but let's see. I really am grateful to the local taxes team, in particular Lynn Brady, and also tied in with what they do on welfare rights with Nicholas Sutherland and her team. I also welcome the update regarding Tayside contracts, where we're now advised of a projected surplus, distributable surplus, apparently of 594,000. I'm also aware, I think, in a position, and I'm very pleased to say, on the Perth 125 project. Now that's going to be, I think it's the 6th and 7th of September weekend, and that's to celebrate, in fact, it's 20 years of Perth Concert Hall, but even more, 125 years of Perth Theatre, and that is something we should be delighted with. There's funding from Creative Scotland, the Ganachie Trust. There's also sponsorship from St Johnstone Football Club, and it's something I very much think that we should participate in. And I'm told that it could generate about 1.3 million of economic benefit for the local economy. I'm also going to depart a bit from script here quickly to though mention, I think it has to be mentioned, it's not just Perth Theatre and Concert Hall, it's also Perth Museum and the news yesterday. And it's not just Bailey Ahern and Deputy Provost Parrott and myself as trustees of Culture Perth and Kinross, but it really is incredibly good news that we've been shortlisted Perth Museum as one of the 5 finalists for what is basically the world's biggest museum prize. We won't know the outcome there until I think it's the 26th of June in Liverpool, but I think it just says so much that we're way over expectations. I think it's about 165, 166,000 we were scheduled to have in terms of visitors, and the most recent figures are 258,000. And I think it's just had incredibly good reviews. I'd also add in quickly Perth Art Gallery, because I think there's been a lot of encouraging things there, but the more is in relation to Perth Museum. I'm going to turn back quickly to our financial projections. We are now anticipating we will have an earmarked reserves above the 2 to 4% range, and indeed, I hope you welcome the proposal, and it will depend on the year-end accounts, which I think will be available unaudited probably in June. But we are at a figure now of 4.2%, and that gives us scope to establish a separate communities fund. I think that will come back to this committee in due course, but it gives us greater leeway, greater scope to carry out a number of, I think, good projects within the community of Perth and Kinross as a whole. So I think we are actually in basically a strong position. I once again do want to thank Scott Walker and the finance team for all they've done, and all of our staff across the board for the effort they put in over the last year. And I think it is encouraging. There still are challenges. We still have to be prudent, but I think we're probably in a better place than we thought would be the case possibly 2 years ago. So I move this report, and I'm going to ask Councillor Lane to second.
Thanks very much, Convener. I think we can all agree this is a very strong report, and I'd like to thank the officers for working so hard on transformation and continuing to work on transformation. We will continue to transform the way that we deliver services, and we hope to accelerate that. I've always said since I came here that I want whoever sits in this chair next to be in a strong financial position in the council. We don't have to look back. We've been much further back in February 2022. We were advised at council that there was a structural deficit of 10.3 million, and that was being funded by reserves. Fast forward to this year, 3 years later, 3 budgets later for this council, we don't have a structural deficit. And we've got an earmarked, and you can laugh if you wish, Councillor Illingworth, but that's fact. And I notice that you laugh every time we mention facts about the financial situation we're in. So this is the financial situation we're in, and that's not down to solely the administration. It's down to hard work from all councillors, from all parties, to take brave decisions, to drive forward transformations in different areas that they do. We've got Councillor Cuthbert has working very hard in the area of Tayside contracts, and we're now seeing the rewards reaped from that by different invoicing stages. Councillor Cuthbert Councillor McEwen working hard with other councillors and Councillor Barrett on housing, etc., and the way that we deliver things. We've got all councillors have got something to give to this, driving Perth and Kinross forward. And this result is a result of everybody working together and coming up with ideas. So I commend it also to the people within Perth and Kinross, the residents, because we're trying to work with communities. We're getting a lot more bang for our buck by giving communities the chance to work for themselves. They know their communities better. That's another one. We've even, when it comes down to recycling, we can see the community buys in to try and make Perth and Kinross in a much stronger financial position than it was. And we've been buffeted by things that are out with our control, wars and other governmental decisions, or world governmental decisions, and we're still fighting, concentrating on what's important in Perth and Kinross. So I thank everybody who has helped contribute in any way to the position we're in as a council. It's a council position, and hopefully when we after the elections in 2027, the person, if we stick to the principles we've got, which has also meant that our capital budget, which was going to be spent out by 2040, if we stick to principles we've got now, is funded to 2070. We've got a good base here, and I'd like to see it continue. So thanks to everybody.
Right, thanks, Grant. And absolutely to add, just transformation is so important, and we're going to get quite a detailed report on that next Wednesday at full council. I think it is so crucial. We've got to keep improving and looking at things in different ways. But I'm now going to ask for comment, and first of all, from to get right in queue is Councillor Barrett. Peter.
Thanks, Stuart. A couple of things that I wanted to pick out of the report. Firstly, was paragraph 435 and the remarkable accelerated delivery of savings by the business support team. I think underspend of 561,000, 15.7% of the budget is extremely strong performance, and the team there should be commended on that achievement. Wanted to return to the topic of council tax collection. We hear an awful lot of noise about public sector debt and an awful lot of scare stories about how some authorities approach that. And I think Perth and Kinross Council stands as an exemplar of excellence, and we have the COSLA Excellence Awards approaching, and I think we ought to consider some of the preventative and early intervention type work that the council tax collection and welfare rights teams do in tandem, along with the Citizens Advice Bureau in Perth, to ensure that their income is maximised, as well as a compassionate, coordinated and well organised approach to supporting vulnerable people in Perth and Kinross is delivered. Like you, convener, but as a Perth City Centre councillor, I'm really pleased that it looks like we're going to approve a substantial contribution from the council towards the Perth 125 live celebrations in September. I think, as you said, for an investment of somewhere just over £400,000, there's a net positive economic benefit of over 1.3 million that will be delivered for that, and that means jobs and prosperity for people in Perth and Kinross, in what I think is going to be a very inclusive celebration. There's free events during the day. There seems to be reasonable ticket pricings for the events on the rolling 3 stages outside the concert hall, outside the theatre, and in the centre of town. So there'll be a wide assortment and a variety of music, entertainments, musical theatres, and some spectacular sound and light exhibitions, culminating with a dazzling audio-visual display, according to the website. So I think that's really going to be something to look forward to, and something that will put Perth on the map in this autumn. So I just wanted to highlight that. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Cuthbert, Dave.
Thank you, convener. My message is quite short. It's just I would like to thank all the staff right across the council. It's not easy to stick to budgets, and in times of inflation, it's very hard. So I think the sheer fact we're actually underspending is remarkable, and I would like to pass my thanks back to them for that.
Thank you for those comments, Dave. Councillor Duff, John.
Thanks, Convener. Yes, I too welcome the report. I'd like to thank Mr Walker and his officers for the comprehensive summary of our position. It is good to see that our financial position is improving and that our reserves are a healthy 4.2%. These last 5 years have been extremely challenging. I think it's good that our processes seem to be standing us in good stead going forward, and that in terms of making savings and the collection of taxes and other income, and I'd like to specifically thank officers for their sterling efforts in that regard. However, we are aware of the financial turmoil that's going on at home and abroad, and we need to be mindful of our identified financial risks and these challenges that we will continue to face. But in the meantime, it's a good report, and thanks to officers for their work on this.
Thanks, John. Councillor Rabbit, John.
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, just very briefly, I just want to also, it does feel appropriate as Convener to thank staff in Education and Children's Services for underspends. I think it's important to note underspends are not always a good thing, but in the context of our financial position, they most certainly are. And I think they have come about by hard work and genuine attempts at doing things better. What I would also add in relation to what our council leader has said, I think it's also true in respect of our education services and indeed on our Learning and Families Committee that there are genuine attempts at transformation. And all of these attempts are quite rightly scrutinised and challenged robustly at times by members on the committee, but it's always in an appropriate way, and it comes from a place of, it comes from a good place of wanting to do things better. So I think that is important to note, just added to what you said, that is certainly my experience in Learning and Families. A great example of that will be in terms of our expansion of intensive support provision, which we are entirely doing to make things right for our children. However, as an add-on to that, we are likely to save money in terms of home to school transport, and that can only be a good thing. So thank you.
Thanks, John. Can I have Billy McLaren, Claire?
Thank you, Convener. Really very, very briefly, the report clearly is reflecting a lot of diligent hard work by many officers, heads of services, etc. within the council, and I can't let that go unnoticed. So I thank them for that, and really briefly just to thank them for all of that.
Thanks, Claire. And I think probably the last comment is Provost McDade. Sander.
Thanks, Convener, and I just want to sort of echo a bit of what the council leader said in his seconding remarks around the fact that despite a very challenging fiscal position nationally, indeed, many other local authorities are facing very, very difficult decisions. The council here took a number of difficult choices, but actually has put the council on the right track for the long term. And really, I wanted to particularly note the decision we took around the capital fund and making sure that the capital budget is funded, nearly fully funded effectively, right the way through to the 2070s. And it has been a concern of myself and others in the council and cross-party thing. It's not been a new thing that actually that was looking unfunded, and dangerously so, and would have led to cuts to services. So I think that decision in particular deserves note for the cross-party support it has received when we have done it a number of times, and that has put Perth and Kinross on a sound financial footing. As the council leader says, as long as people stick to it in the long term, then it will actually ensure that is paid for in perpetuity for the decisions we're making. So I think, given the national context as well, where others are experiencing some very challenging decisions, we have made a number of difficult decisions, but actually that are paying off for us, and I think that needs to be reflected.
Thank you, Provost. Right. I think just echo the comments from a minute ago over the last few minutes, and that is, yeah, we've got to keep on going on this course. Transformation is vital, but it's also crucial that we are inclusive and collegiate. Yeah, of course, we do have strong political differences and views, but I think we all of us want the best as well for the people of Perth and Kinross and for our local communities. I just say to note the projected outturn for the general fund as set out in the paper. Note the financial risks, and Councillor Duff's absolutely right. It may even be you can't defy gravity given some of the international events happening right now. I want you to approve the various adjustments that have been put forward here, and also as important is to confirm the Council's approach on medium and longer term financial planning, and not just the medium term financial strategy. So can we agree the report? Great, excellent. Right, we now move on to the capital report, and again, I shall ask Scott to introduce the report. Thanks.
Thank you, Convener. This report provides an update on progress with the Council's 6-year composite capital budget through to 29-30 and the 5-year housing investment programme to 28-29, based on expenditure to the 31st of January. The report also includes the impact of decisions taken by Council on the 26th of February when it set the revenue and capital budgets for future years. Section 4 and Appendix 1 to the report sets out the updated resources of over £635 million that are available to support the composite capital budget through to 29-30. This is slightly less than the position I reported in February, and the reasons for the movement are included in the table at paragraph 4.3. The table also sets out a reduction in our overall borrowing requirement of just over £1 million through to 29-30, primarily due to a rephasing of the bridge refurbishment programme into 30-31. Section 5 and Appendix 2 sets out progress on the delivery of the composite capital programme by strategic lead, together with recommended adjustments to the budget. Net expenditure to the end of January was just over £100 million, or 67% of the projected outturn. This level of spend is similar to last year and underlines the consistent progress being made on the delivery of the composite capital budget. Adjustments in the environment and infrastructure portfolio are set out in Section 5.2. The adjustments are in the main rephasings of approved budgets to match expenditure plans. The largest rephrasing is set out in paragraph 5.2.4 and relates to the bridge refurbishment programme. At paragraph 5.3, I provide an update on housing and communities, with the adjustments summarised in the table at paragraph 5.3.2. At paragraph 5.3.3, I'm seeking approval to transfer £410,000 from the Gypsy Traveller Improvement Works programme to unallocated capital resources, as these budgets are no longer required. And at paragraph 5.4, I provide an update on economy, development and planning. There are 3 significant adjustments under this portfolio. Firstly, the acceleration of funding relating to Bertha Park Link Road. Secondly, adjustments to the Commercial Property Investment Programme. And thirdly, a rephasing of the budget for the 123 High Street project. Within property, several rephasings are proposed, which are set out in the tables at paragraph 5.5.2 and 5.5.3. In addition, I'm seeking to transfer the remaining budget of £2.895 million for Perth Art Gallery to unallocated resources, as this budget is no longer required for that specific project. In paragraph 5.8, I provide an update on our unallocated resources and then seek approval to apply the £2.895 million towards phase 1 of the works at Perth Concert Hall. Finally, in relation to the composite programme, Appendix 4 to the report provides an overview of the progress on our significant general fund capital projects. At Section 6, we provide an update on the housing investment programme, which will incur almost £97 million of investment over the next 5 years. Actual net expenditure to the end of January was £26.6 million. The bullet points under paragraph 6.4 illustrate the significant progress being made on the Future Developments New Build programme. In addition to the additional projects listed, we purchased 116 properties under the buyback scheme in 24-25. And paragraph 6.6 also reports the additional Scottish Government grant funding of £1.96 million towards the buyback programme. There are also adjustments to the budget set in paragraph 6.7 through to 6.10. In concluding, the overview in section 7 provides some key information on spend levels for both the general fund and the HRA capital budgets. Colleagues and I are happy to take questions, Convener.
Thanks, Scott. Do we have any questions? And I think the first is from Baillie Ahern. Chris.
Thank you very much. My question is on paragraph 5.34, which is the community asset transfers. It would appear from that section that there was no money spent at all in 24-25 on community asset transfers. So the question is, are we doing it right? And how many have we got projected for the forthcoming year? If bearing in mind we had nothing in 24-25.
Okay, who wants to come in on that? Elaine? Elaine?
Thank you. Thank you, Baillie Ahern. Sorry, I think my camera's broken. Apologies if you can't see me, but hopefully you can hear me. Yeah, that's correct. We didn't have any community asset transfers, but we had over 34 expressions of interest. It's a very complicated process, and we've got a report going to the Housing and Social Wellbeing Committee in June outlining all the expressions and the work that the team have done, and that gives a good overview. So yeah, there was no actual community asset transfers, but there is some work being done in collaboration as part of our property asset review, and we're working quite closely with Stephen Crawford's team regarding that. But the team are working really hard in terms of the number of interest that we received from community groups.
Okay, thanks, Elaine. And I think Stephen Crawford wants to add some words as well. Stephen?
No, Convener, no, quite happy with Elaine answering that question.
Okay. Right, the next question is from Councillor Andy Chan. Andy.
Thank you, Convener. My first question is on Perth High School replacement. Given the recent court judgment regarding single-sex places with the toilets and changing rooms within the new Perth High School, will this be compliant now?
I think yes, but we can go to Stephen Crawford, but the answer is yes.
If I could answer Councillor Chan, we currently have gender neutral toilets designed in, as we have many of other schemes. We're obviously that announcement has just been made, and I'm working with David McCluskey and his team to answer that question across our entire portfolio, not just Perth High School.
Okay, Councillor Chan. Right, the next question is Councillor Duff. John.
Thanks, Convener. My question's on paragraph 5.4.6 on page 61, which is to do with the development, which I presume is still at 1 to 5 High Street, although it says 1 to 3 in the paper. So the paper talks about rescheduling the funding for this, but as we all know, there has been recent information in the media about the liquidation of the company involved, and I wonder if anything could be said about the current position in relation to this particular project. Thank you.
Serge.
Thank you, Councillor Duff, for your question. Yes, I think because the company named in the council previous decision has been liquidated, we are obviously working through all the information, and we will come back to the council in September to present the different options to develop a boutique hotel at 1 to 5 High Street.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor, I think it's Illingworth, David.
Thank you, Convener. I'm pleased to see that the Bertha Park Link Road has been accelerated. Are there any estimates for when it will start and how long it will take to deliver?
Serge?
Yeah, thank you for your questions. Yes, initial works, the tree clearance and construction of temporary access roads have commenced. They will be followed by further advanced works. Earthworks will commence in June 2025, and we anticipate a completion before the end of 2026.
Next question, and I'd say on Bertha Park, it's been added to Appendix 4, the major capital projects. So it's not just projects that have been achieved over the last 2 to 3 years, but that we're looking to go forward and complete. Next question is Councillor Collins-Stewart.
Thanks. So I think my question is about the Perth Eco Innovation Park. The commentary that's added there is quite alarming in terms of the breakdown with in the performance of the contractor, and I just wondered. I looked back and we didn't have a previously currently programmed date, but I'm just wondering when we would be looking to get this up and running again, when we would actually be looking to deliver it in terms of the current programming.
Okay, again, I think it's Serge Morone, initially anyway.
Yes, sure. Thank you for your question. You may remember that this committee approved an amount to start the process in relation to design and development of the projects. That was been last June, I think, if I remember correctly. So that work has started, has been developed. We've been delayed because of some of the contractual issues with the consultant there, but that's back on track. We've got now a new consultant appointed, and we don't anticipate that have a significant impact on the overall program of development. So we are, as indicated last year, we will go back to the council in February to effectively provide a further report on the overall project and all the financial implications, from the project. The timeline of the project has not changed. Obviously subject to the council consideration in February. The project will be delivered within the timescale which was indicated before.
Next question, Councillor Barrett. Peter.
Thanks, Convener. Paragraph 5.2.4 refers to bridges and the works on the Old Perth Bridge and the Queen's Bridge being rephased. Just wondered if we could get further detail of what that means for the timeline of both those bridge works.
Fraser.
Thank you, Convener. Thank you, Convener. Yes, both projects, the Old Perth Bridge and Queen's Bridge, have been pushed back by 1 year. We've had some further staff turnover within the team, unfortunately. But in terms of the delivery of those two schemes, as I say, it's been pushed back by 1 year each. Old Perth Bridge will now anticipate to have construction 26-27 and Queen's Bridge in 27-28. I would just like to continue to provide reassurance to committee regarding the ongoing inspection of the two bridges by the team in terms of safety, etc. So that's ongoing. Thank you.
Anything further? Could I just add myself, linked in with the two bridges is Fraser is Shore Road in Perth. I know from Scottish Water that their work is probably going to be completed either the end of this week or next. When do we hope to have Shore Road actually open properly again?
So my understanding is we have a handback date, if you like, of around of June. I think it's the middle of June, at which point our roads maintenance partnership team will go in directly after that work has been completed to do the overlay work, which I think in itself is a couple of weeks. So I would anticipate by the end of June that the road will be reopened.
Okay, I may send you a letter I got from Scottish Water. That's 2 or 3 weeks back. But anyway, that's by the by just now. Next question, because she's not asked. Peter, do you have a supplementary to that earlier question?
If I could, thanks, convener. And it was just in response to what Mr. Croft said about staff shortages. Obviously, we've all been really pleased to see the completion of the Cross Tay Link Road and the reduction in traffic that has created in the Scone Main Street, Old Perth Bridge, Athol Street corridor, which is really welcome in terms of road safety for residents and amenity for shoppers. But I am concerned that the final phase of the Perth Transport Futures Cross Tay Link Road project doesn't get forgotten about. And are the staff shortages that Mr. Croft's referring to going to have an impact on delivering on the environmental and road safety improvements in the Main Street, Perth Bridge, Scone corridor area?
Fraser?
So the team have had some further turnover issues in terms of the majority of the work that we agreed to undertake on the back of the CTLR. That has been carried out. We continue to work through the programme as we go forward. Members will be aware of some other national initiatives that have come our way, not least the pavement parking ban and the 20 mile an hour rollout as well. But we will work and prioritise within the resources that we have to deliver on all fronts. To the best of my knowledge, we are pretty much back to capacity now across the traffic and network team.
Okay. Right, I'm going to ask Caroline Shires, Councillor Shires, who's not asked the question yet.
Convener, my question's regarding the new Blairgowrie Rec Centre. We've appreciated the updates from Mr. Crawford and his team over the last, 5 months now, when we were heading for a post-Christmas opening, and then we were going to go and work off our Easter eggs, and now we're looking at maybe it's our summer bodies that we'll be working on. So just to get an indication of where we are, I think the community have been very, very patient, and that has been appreciated also, but an indication of a projected handover and then opening time would be helpful.
I think Council Leader will make a comment in a second, but first of all, Stephen Crawford. Stephen.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Shires, and my apologies of both my contractor, supply chain and myself for not being able to deliver this on time. As per the last briefing, the pool remains with an unidentified leak. I mean, the contractors are currently on site in the pool attempting to file the leak, but also considering other more radical options. A timescale I unfortunately can't give you at the moment, but as on last Wednesday, Scrutiny Committee has asked for a report on the cause of the delay. But at the advent of me being able to sort that, I would say that it's been fortuitous that we've had the existing Blair Rec fully operational during that time. But I agree with you. 5 months delay is not acceptable.
Council Leader Grant.
Thanks for letting me dive right in now. It is frustrating for us all, and no more so than you, than me, and everybody that lives there. But it's the right thing to do. You wouldn't go and take a car that had one bald tyre, and you're going to have to replace it. You wouldn't buy anything that isn't. So I think it's a sensible and pragmatic thing to do, and I'm sure the contractors will not be enjoying this situation either. It's a good example though of having a tandem build. Because if this had been, if we'd set that we'd knocked down Blair Rec and said it was going to be something to be ready in 18 months and it ends up being 2 years, that's really when people will get upset. But I think Stephen will make the right decision But yeah, I share your frustration.
Caroline, I think you've got a supplementary.
My supplementary question is around, and perhaps we could get maybe just for the local elected members more detailed briefing, is when handover does happen, and then there'll be the demolition of the existing building. My concern is around the logistics around that, in terms of making sure that the car park facilities for the new facility are available, and we don't have any knock-on effects on the wider community, but not having that operational, because I guess in the whole schedule's gone out the window a wee bit with this. So perhaps an additional briefing for the local elected members at that point would be helpful. Thank you.
Stephen,
Convener,
I'm sure that'll be the case.
More than happy to get to work with the local members in the community on that.
Okay, we've got 2 or 3 second questions from, first of all, I think it's Bailey Ahern, and then it's Councillor Chan.
Thank you very much. My question is on 5.71, which is the technology-enabled telecare. Given that we'd had 140,000 spread out over the next 3 years, accelerated to this year, which I fully understand, we have the switch off of the PTSN network at the end of this year, moving everything across to VoIP. Are we confident that the work is all going to be carried out and we will have the equipment to do that? And are we confident that we have the capacity to complete the work before that is done, and we will leave no one without telecare support?
Scott.
Yep, thank you. So my understanding is that there's only a very small number of dispersed alarm units that are left. So it's 14 out of 4,000 are still under the old network. So 3,986 are online. Thank you.
Councillor Chan. Andy.
Thank you, Convener. My question's on page 63 of the report regarding Bell Sports Centre. What are the proposed works we are accelerating at the Bell Sports Centre? And is it appropriate that we are because we're still waiting of the outcome of the consultation of the future of Bells? Thank
you. I think Stephen Crawford once again, but obviously matters are being considered right now. I don't think we're going to get very far today on this committee. But Stephen?
Yep, I'm happy to answer where we are. The Bell Sports Centre came back to council operational responsibility in November 24. We have been undertaking works. There is an existing tenant, Live Active, or that Live Active Leisure had. It was the Perthshire Rugby Club. All of the Perthshire Rugby Club are 100% connected to all the main services of the building. So we've been undertaking works to disconnect them from the main building. So the full plant, the full heating plant, hot water plant, all of those things were going, whilst the rest of the building was redundant. So we spent quite a bit of time disconnecting their services so that the Garricky Pavilion can stand alone, and will save us quite a bit of money in terms of in terms of power and servicing. And equally, we had to disconnect the intruder alarms and intruder alarms and fire alarm systems. We've also concurrently, to inform all the future options appraisals, you'll be aware that the Bells has got a considerable amount of rack concrete roofing, and it's also got 60-year-old glue lamps. So we've been undertaking those pieces of work that were always going to have to happen depending on what we did, and that will buy us time in any redevelopment proposals. So those works have been done proactively in advance, funded from the Property Services Capital Budget, to buy us some time in implementing any agreed redevelopment proposals that council makes in the future. And very much to say on a spend to save. I mean, the works with the Garricky Pavilion were done on a spend to save basis, and this is done on a spend to save competitive basis, because when we have a vacant Bell's building, we're liable for the business rates, and that's a considerable cost. So if we can buy ourselves 6 months or a year by doing these works proactively, it will, one, bring the building back into operation, but two, save us cash at the same time.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. Councillor Chan, just out of courtesy, I think I'll take right. Okay, Bailey Ahern, I think you've got a supplementary.
Yes, thank you. I think I was a bit shocked at the response I got from that, saying there was only 14 instalments left to be done. 140,000 is set aside from that. I'm taking it not each installation is going to cost 10,000, and is it going to be quite a bit of an underspend then on the 140,000 if we've only got 14 units left to change?
So that's the information we've been given from our colleagues. I don't know if is Alan Taylor online to come in with more detail. If not, we'll come back to you with the detail around that. Well, okay, we'll come back to you with the detail.
Okay, you're happy in that yeah, you get a more detailed response and more in the way of figures. Right, and finally, I think this will be the last question, is Councillor Stewart.
Thanks, convener. I think I just wanted to follow up on the question and answer between Councillor Barrett and Mr. Crofts, and sort of put on record my thanks to the traffic and network team and for getting the A93 and A94 safety measures installed and up and running by the time that the Crosstay Link Road was opened. But I did just want to ask, Councillor Barrett said that there had been reduced traffic on the Scone Main Street Bridge End, Athol Street, Perth Bridge, Athol Street corridor, and I just wondered, given that at the Community Council in Scone on just 2 days ago, there were reports of more heavy traffic coming through the village since the opening of the Crosstay Link Road. I wondered whether we actually had any measure of the amount of traffic and whether it was matching up with the, it may be too early, it's only been 4 weeks, but whether we had any indication of the flow of traffic and volume of traffic and weight of traffic following the opening of the CTLR.
I don't know if it's too early or not, but Fraser, yeah.
Yeah, obviously. Thank you. I think that's probably the answer to the question at the moment. That said, you know, in speaking with the team, we will be looking to undertake monitoring arrangements across those parts of the network over the coming months, and I think it's important. Obviously, we're doing that at different parts of the year, so we would anticipate, you know, maybe that taking place over a period of 6 months or so, as we approach the summer months, and then latterly into the tail end of the calendar year, and from there, hopefully things will have normalised, whatever that normalisation looks like, and we can refer back to the modelling that we had prior to the build.
Okay, thanks. There, Fraser, and I think actually, Councillor Drysdale wants to make a comment in a minute. Right, I don't see any further questions, so I'm going to move the report, and it's not just about the capital budget 2024 to 2030, but also about the housing investment programme, which I've never been quite sure. It is for 5 years up until 2029. I've always thought there's an argument that they should be aligned, but it's not a big issue. I think we continue to make good progress when delivering the capital budget. There are a number of adjustments within the paper, and that's inevitable. It's part of the nature of deferral, of bringing certain programmes forward. And at this time of the financial year, or just after the end of the financial year, you'll tend to get a greater incidence of that. But that is just part of, you know, good financial management. But it has been a very busy year. I think you can see that from Appendix 4 and our major capital projects, and a spend on capital of in excess of 100 million for the year to date. And it really is, I think, great for the future of Perth and Kinross. It's not just the Destiny Bridge, and many of us were at the opening ceremony quite recently. It's also in Blairgowrie Rec, and yes, there have been issues in the run-up to the opening, but we've really pushed forward as an administration to get that brought forward. I take the point about with the old facilities, and I'm sure there will be full consultation with local members and briefings on what is happening in that front, and also with Perth High School. And what we're also going to see next year is completion of the Bertha Park Link Road, and that's important in terms of the overall configuration for Perth and Kinross, and to meet our needs and requirements going forward. I think it is for the benefit of our citizens, our communities. I think the other thing I would point out, and we haven't really had questions on to any great extent, is on the new Council House Build programme. And we're seeing affordable social housing within increasing number of localities. And the Council House Buyback programme, we brought 116 properties back into the housing revenue account. I think we should be very pleased with that. I think Appendix 4 gives you coverage on a number of other projects. Overall, we're talking of capital investment of 635 million between now and 29-30. And we've, I think, worked out the way of how we finance that. It also sets out the way in which is 97 million of expenditure on housing investment programme up to 2029. Yet again, I do want to thank council officers for their efforts, and I will ask Councillor Lane to second.
Thanks, convener. And there's many good points within this report, and I'll leave people where it is their speciality, i.e. housing and other areas, to comment on what officers have achieved in the prior year. The thing that's most impressive, I think, about our capital budget was the commitment across the chamber and everybody's budgets, I think, to commit to 1.25% to fund this moving forward. And that allayed some of the nervousness that many of us had, including officers, about the sustainability of the capital fund moving forward. I think that was a brave decision of council, and it's put us in a much stronger place to deliver for our residents. So I think everybody should take some credit for the position we're in. Thanks.
Thank you. Right. We now move to comments, and first comment is from Councillor Drysdale. Eric.
Thank you, convener. I just wanted to pick up on a couple of the questions and comments that have been made around the roads constructions that have taken place. It would be remiss of us, and convener, you have just mentioned it, but it would be remiss of us not to pay tribute to everyone involved in the thought process behind and then the delivery of the Cross Tay Link Road and the Destiny Bridge, and the impact that is already having and will continue to have for decades to come on the residents and businesses of Perth and Kinross. To have that delivered on time and on budget is a remarkable achievement, and I would like to pay tribute to all those who were involved in the construction project. And that is something that has opened up considerable amount of economic development opportunity to the wider Perth and Kinross area. The planned Bertha Park Link Road
is being accelerated, and that 1.4 kilometre stretch that will complete the link between the Crieff Road and the A9 will have an impact, a positive impact in alleviating some of the congestion that continues to persist at Inverarmond. And that's obviously to be desired. And so now we are bringing forward that project, a £9 million project to complete that link, phase 3 of the overall Perth Transport Futures project, and that will be completed early in 26-27, so not much more than a year from now, maybe summer of 2026. And that is something that will have a real positive impact in not completing the circle, but completing that whole section. The other thing, a much more straightforward measure, which I think will impact on the point that Councillor Stewart made, that he had heard that there continued to be a volume of HGVs, etc., coming through Scone. And I have mentioned this to Mr. Crofts and others just recently, that the road signage could be better, frankly. And when coming from the north, coming from Aberdeen and Forfar, when you approach Perth, you're signposted to use the Crosstay Link Road when heading towards Perth or heading towards Inverness. What's missing is Edinburgh and Glasgow. And I think it needs to be made a lot clearer on these routes that if you're heading through and you're not stopping in Perth, you're not visiting Perth, but you're heading to the Central Belt, then the Crosstay Link Road is for you, and that will have an impact on the issue, I hope, that Councillor Stewart has mentioned. Finally, I just wanted to also thank everybody, Mr. Crawford and his team, for the work that is being done on Perth High School, which will again be delivered on time and on budget as things look at the moment. And the first intake of pupils will take place in this summer for the next school year. It's a fantastic development. The energy efficiency is unbelievable, and it will make a particularly exciting and innovative place for our young people to learn in the decades ahead. I'm also, as an aside, delighted that an opportunity has been taken to have an opportunity for all the old pupils, or some of the old pupils of Perth, the old Perth High School, to have one last look around the old building before it is demolished in the following financial year. So that's enough from me. I just wanted to thank everybody that's been involved in these major infrastructure projects and their delivery, and just thank, on behalf of the people of Perth and Kinross, thank the officers and BAM Nuttall and other construction companies for their involvement in that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Barrett, Peter.
Thanks, convener. I don't want to sort of hijack the capital report with the detail of traffic congestion at Main Street Bridge End, but I do have concerns, and I've expressed them for a long term. And Colin Stewart's right in that, you know, all the A94 villages had road safety improvements installed along with before the opening of the Crosstay Link Road bridge. But once you get to Scone and south of Scone and the approach to Perth, then there's been nothing. We've just heard about the extended delays that there's going to be to traffic disruption caused by the Queen's Bridge and the Old Perth Bridge works, which are going to go on for another 2 to 3 years from now. We can't have a situation arising where nothing is going to happen in terms of devising the solutions and the designs for the traffic, pedestrian and road safety improvements that need to be implemented in the Dundee Road to Scone corridor whilst those works are going on, and we need to consider what can be done in parallel to those works as well, so that those works aren't delayed for 3 or 4 years more. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Although I must say, I think to do a proper analysis, it will require data and stats, and also factor in.
They've been collecting data and stats on traffic movements there for donkeys. So.
Okay, and I think the opening of Shore Road may be of help. Let's see. Can I go to Councillor Duff? John.
Thanks, Convener. Yes, I too would like to welcome the updates on our capital programme and the progress being made on what I think has always been an ambitious list of projects. I think it's good to see that a number of our long-awaited projects of significance have been concluded successfully or are coming to a conclusion. The Crosstay Link Road, the Destiny Bridge and New Kingsway, which I continue to enjoy using on a number of occasions. Riverside Primary, which is possibly the last time that will appear sort of in the report here with the conclusion of the finances for that. Perth High School, which we hope to open up in the summer. Bergowrie Rec, obviously the delays are unfortunate, but I think we can be comforted that we aren't too far away from being able to open and enjoy this facility. But that does leave a number of other exciting things to be looking at. The Bertha Park Link Road, the Perth Futures Works, the Perth West Innovation Park, and obviously the development opportunities that the opening of the Crosstay Link Road bring. I think these are all will have significant impact for Perth and for Perth and Kinross, and I hope that we can all work together to progress these successfully. I can just conclude by thanking Mr. Walker, Mr. Jennings and the other officers involved in the production of this report. Thank you.
Thanks, John. I think the last comment here is going to be from Councillor Revick.
Thanks, Convener. Just very briefly, Councillor Drysdale stole my thunder a little bit about Perth High School, which is fine. It's something that we're quite rightly all excited about. I am too. When I moved up from the country's capital in 1978, I did spend 2 years at Perth High School, the current Perth High School. No huge desire, I have to say, to go back and look at it, but that's another conversation. But really excited about the new Perth High School opening on time, I'm sure complete with legal and compliant toilets and indeed an intensive support provision. Just a little thing, but maybe worth mentioning since we're speaking about it. Just a quick thanks to the small but important contribution that some of our contractors have made at Woodley Cottage, Robertson Construction and Sidey's Glaziers, I think in particular, who have helped making the outside space at Woodley really nice, even better than it was before. So it's maybe important to acknowledge that partnership working with our contractors is alive and kicking and working well. Thank you.
Thanks, John. And I was a bit premature because Billy McLaren does want to make a comment. Claire.
Thank you, Convener. Just under the line there. I'm really echoing the Destiny New Kingsway comments. It's an amazing achievement and it's been very much welcome, particularly with local communities surrounding who are using the cycle routes, the walking routes, and I'm certainly hearing from them that they're delighted. So, and also the impacts that they've benefited from locally through the construction process, the community benefits. So I would just like to have that noted, and also, yes, ongoing environment roundabout, ongoing congestion there is of a concern, but equally further up up around some of the areas within my ward. They're delighted with the reduction in traffic. They recognise that there is still local traffic, local agricultural traffic moving through these roads, but in the main delighted by what has been delivered. So thank you.
Okay, thanks, Claire. I can't see any further comments, so I'm just going to say if we can note the contents of the report and the progress on the various capital projects that we've discussed, and also if you can approve the various adjustments to both the capital budget and set out here, and also the housing investment programme. So overall, can we agree the report?
Agreed.
Right, we now move finally on to the last report today, and that is on the Treasury Activity and Compliance Report 24-25. It's now taken on a half-yearly basis. This is for the 6 months, as you can see, and in fact it should be to the 31st of March, it states in the commentary. But can I ask Scott? I don't know if John Jennings is going to come in as well, but Scott.
Thank you, Convener. In line with the previous decision of the committee, this is a 6-month update covering the period 1st October 24 through to 31st of March 2025. An elected member briefing on Q3 was issued back in February. Section 3 provides some wider economic context, including information on the recent announcement on interest rates and commentary on recent volatility. Section 4 focuses on Treasury activity over the last 6 months. During the period, we undertook 5 new PWLB loans totalling £80 million and repaid 1 PWLB loan totalling £7.5 million. This meant that our long-term debt increased by £72.5 million in the period to £715.2 million at an average interest rate of 2.91%. We also took out 8 short-term market loans totalling £37 million to manage daily cash flows for an average of 46 days at an average interest rate of 4.99%. None of these short-term loans were outstanding at 31st of March. We made 12 fixed-rate deposits during the 6 months totalling £63 million for an average 39 days at an average rate of 5.33%. These fixed-rate deposits generated just under £355,000 of income. During the last 6 months, through our proactive approach to treasury management, we generated over £390,000 from money market funds and total income of just under £745,000. All investments were made in accordance with the approved investment strategy and permitted investments, and were also consistent with our cash flow requirements. In Section 5, I provide confirmation that during the period there were no breaches in compliance with the approved Treasury Management Policy Statement. In Section 6, I provide an update on our investments and confirm that an investment strategy was applied in full during the period. And in Section 7, I confirm that the Council adhered to all prudential limits for the 6-month reporting period. Finally, in Section 9, I'm seeking your approval to update daily limitations to authority for officers involved in Treasury Management activity. These changes are simply housekeeping and seek to update the document for job descriptions and the structure of the Council. Council will also consider the annual Treasury strategy at next week's meeting. Convener John Jennings online and I are happy to take questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. We certainly have one question, and that is from Deputy Provost Andrew Parrott. Andrew, followed up by Councillor Drysdale. Eric.
Thank you very much. I'm at paragraph 4.3. It's the borrowing of £80 million over the last 6-month period. The interest rate doesn't surprise me, but the average term is, to my mind, shorter than usual. Is that because we are making longer term borrowings over the shorter term in the hope of reborrowing later at better interest rates? Thanks.
I think on this, either Scott or John.
Yeah, thank you. So we're deliberately borrowing short term because the rates are better in the short term, and we're hoping that, as predicted, the rates fall over the longer term, and that's where we'll go back in and get longer term investments or deals.
Councillor Drysdale, Eric.
Thank you, Convener. Nothing in Appendix 2 at 1C, the figures for long-term debt outstanding for Public Works Loan Board and the money market loans, and noting the average interest rates for PWLB loans are 2.76, are increased to 2.76% from 2.48, while money market loans are 4.51. Why would we borrow using money market loans, or are these long-term historic arrangements? Thank you.
Scott.
Yeah, so I'll start and perhaps John Jennings can join in. So, but basically we're benefiting from our historically low borrowing, which is holding the rates down. And as we borrow in more recent times, it's bringing it back up again. So that's why the trend is going up from the 2.48 to the 2.76. But basically it's a historic debt at really good rates that's keeping it low. The current rate, John, do you want to come in terms of current rates?
Yeah, the current rates for PWLB are around about the 4.5% for 2 to 3 year borrowing. 50-year loans are coming in just over 5.5%. So that's why our borrowing so far has been in the shorter periods, with a view to refinancing them into longer term and as they mature.
So sorry if I haven't asked my question clearly. What I was really looking to establish is money market loans. The rate is 4.51%, and it was the same as last year. I'm just wondering why we would borrow at all on money market loans when the difference is almost 2%.
Yeah, these are all loans that were borrowed in previous periods, and because of the current interest rates, we're not doing any further borrowing in money market funds or loans at this point in time. That's why the figures are unchanged from the last period to the current period.
Okay, thanks. That's what I suspected. I just wanted that confirmed. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Councillor Barrett. Peter.
Thanks. My question's on a sort of similar subject to those raised, and particularly paragraphs 4.4 and 4.5 of the report. And I just want to check that it would be true to say that 8 years ago we could borrow money for 8 years at 1.88%. So you'd be paying 19 million to 19,000 to borrow £1 million. But this report is saying that it now costs us £50,000 a year to borrow £1 million, and that's what we have to do for every million that we borrow in the capital programme.
Yeah, that's correct, John. That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. The rates you're quoting, I think, hark back to the pre-Brexit negotiations, where rates actually were at extremely low levels that have never been seen again, and probably won't be seen again for many a year.
Councillor Duff. John.
Thank you. Yeah, I wonder if my question's on a similar line about, it seems to be a wee bit of an anomaly in here. On page 95, obviously it talks about some of our long-term borrowings with banks and with, Public Works Loan Board and money market loans. So 2.5% roughly for Public Works Loan Board and 4.5% in the money market loans. But further down on the next page, I've got it right, we seem to have money deposited with banks and other local authorities that we're getting 4.93% and 5.4% of a return. So am I right in thinking that other local authorities are borrowing money from us at 5.4%?
Scott.
When, but when you can get money market or Public Works Loan Board loans at a lower rate, or is that just historical?
I mean, there is a local authority market out there. John, you're immersed in that on a daily basis. Do you want to comment further?
Yeah, we borrow and we lend to other local authorities frequently. We have one longer term borrowing, the loan that we borrowed from another local authority. By and large, it's the day-to-day shorter term deposits and loans, maybe for a month or two. But it is very active, and the rates do fluctuate significantly The banks that we invest in are very different from the banks we borrow with, however, and they're two very distinct markets that there's no overlap in that sense.
Just a quick follow-up. In terms of lending money then, or depositing money and lending money, is it only other local authorities that we can lend to?
No. We either lend to a local authority or we deposit in a bank or a fixed term instant access. We can do both, and we do both.
But are there other places that we could lend money to? And as I was asking.
Sorry. No. Local authorities, banks, building societies, highly credit rated banks in particular are the only ones we deal with, as well as local authority and money market funds.
Okay, thank you.
I think probably a last question, Councillor Cuthbert, Dave.
Thank you, Convener. Yeah, my question relates to short-term borrowing 2B on page 95. I'm slightly confused by this because we're showing common good and charitable funds and we're showing local trust and investors. Now, I presume they're not borrowing as such. So is this us borrowing from them? And if so, why are the rates different from the common good and charitable funds and the local trust investors? I would have thought they would be the same if we're giving them the same interest.
John.
The local trust investors are associated bodies that we deal with, and when we say we borrowed that money, in reality, we've made a deposit facility available to them so they can invest the money with us, which and the rates reflect the approved temporary loan policy that the council has in place. The common goods are internal loans within the council. They're not, and they again reflect the policy that was approved for the common good funds. So there is a slight difference in the rates and the way they're determined, but they're never too far apart, I would suggest.
Yeah, on you go.
Yeah, I'm just wondering then, what if the common good funds are sitting with us, why we're not putting them on bid deposit or with the other rates that we're getting from the other authorities, which appear to be higher? Is there a reason for that? Are they placed for a longer term, shorter term? Is there more security?
Well, the common good don't actually operate their own bank account, so that the cash they have is kind of subsumed within the council funding and is borrowed and lent in line with the council's overall treasury management. The arrangement here is just really the internal arrangement to credit them with the money they generate and the balances they hold.
I can maybe take this offline, but I'm just curious because we're showing 4.42% on the next page is being earned by the council money, but only 4.02% for the common goods, for example. So it just means the common goods would get more money if they had a higher interest rate. That's all. I'll take it offline.
Yeah. The only point I'd add with the common good, sorry, is a lot of these were fixed a year ago, so they might reflect historic rates as. But yes, happy to take it offline.
Okay. Are there any further questions? Nope. Okay, I'm going to move the report. And just really following on from what's being said, I'm conscious I don't usually get much chance to speak on this paper, but I know there's the Treasury Management Statement next week at full council, and maybe I get a chance to come out with a bit more in the way of comment then. But I do take the point with their, I think it's important. There are needs, it's almost kind of cash flow management, day-to-day operational requirements that we do have to take approach in certain matters. I think Scott Walker's given us, and John Jennings, a very good summary. of what's within this report. The report it gives some coverage on the wider economy, as well as a summary of our own Treasury activity. I don't know what's going to be in next week, and I was looking at interest rate trends from 31st of March, almost up to date. And in fact, 2 5-year money, the rate has come down. But what you've seen really since the Trump tariffs is really incredible volatility and uncertainty, especially in bond markets. And we'll see where we are next week. I think it gives, though, an update, the report on the excellent investment returns that we have enjoyed during 24-25, and also sets out where we are and where we may be going. The report, there's no breaches in compliance with our Treasury management policy. The investment strategy was applied in full throughout the period. Our prudential limits were adhered to. And one thing we didn't comment about, but it's in terms of matrix of responsibility, was the adjustments to the limitations to authority that's set out in Section 8. And I think that's important in terms of governance. So I'm happy to move the report. Councillor Lee. That.
Thank you, Convener. I'll be brief. It's easy to ignore some of the, this work that's going on, but it's very important work that goes on behind the scenes, and by the good work and the professionalism of our officers involved, it actually makes the council funds available to the council that we've had that can support the revenue budget. So I'd like to thank them for their work, and I'll quite happy to leave them to get on with it. So thanks very much. Happy to second the paper.
Okay, do we have any comment? There being none, I just ask you to note the contents of the report, and also important here to actually approve the proposed variation to the limitations to authority. So can we agree this report? And we're finished almost exactly on 2 hours at 3 o'clock. There we are, and thank you very much.